Good morning. You guys having a good time out there? Okay, we're going to have a good time today. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. A closed session was held last week pursuant to Government Code 54956.9, a conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Todd Garcia versus Rojo Espagel, County of Calaveras et al., Superior Court Case CV 36054, resulting in nothing to report. We also had a closed session with Government Code 54956.9, 3 cases of the NEMI's court cases, CV 35775, 35721, 36297. It was continued 1 week until today. Thank you. I'd like to move to the consent agenda. These items are routine, normally, non-controversial, normally, and any member of the board, staff, or public may pull an item. Supervisor Tuffanelli would like to pull item 5. Any other item? Yes. Mr. Mitchell, did you want to pull an item?
Supervisor Tuffanelli pulled item 5. That's it.
Yes. Any member of the public wish to pull another item? May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on 5-0. We don't stand a recess. It's consent agenda item. Mr. Garcia, would you like to address item 5? Good morning.
Good morning.
Just saw you.
Yes, good morning, Chairwoman Callaway, members of the Court of Supervisors. Richard Harmon, Interim Caltrans District 10 Director out of Stockton. Here today to acknowledge the county and a project they have, Mountain Ranch Road project. The federal government, the Federal Highway Administration, has recognized this project, and particularly a safety element that's being incorporated into this project, as particularly beneficial for motorists. They have granted $300,000 as part of their Highways for Life program. In fact, this project was the only project in the state of California to receive funding from the Highways for Life program this year. And it's for a component called a safety edge, which is a 30-degree slope that's put on the shoulder of a road as an effort for a driver that goes off the roadway. As they come back on, they tend to overcorrect. This 30-degree slope keeps their wheels more closely aligned with the roadway so they don't come across and result in a head-on. In fact, on the way up here this morning on Highway 26, the driver, just a few minutes before we arrived in a pickup truck, had overcorrected and rolled his pickup when we actually arrived before CHP, and it was a key example of where this could be used. So Caltrans District 10, we have a certificate we'd like to present to Mr. Garcia and the county for our appreciation for a local jurisdiction that is kind of taking that extra step to incorporate a innovative safety component as part of a project.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia.
This is a very important project for the county and for Caltrans. One of the items of this project, the safety edge, this is the pilot project for the state to incorporate safety edge into the Caltrans standards. So they're going to be looking at us as we implement this and depending on the success of the safety edge, it will become part of the state standards for Caltrans. So the county is very excited to have this opportunity to work closely with our partners at Caltrans and FHWA to implement some of these new safety procedures. And I'd also like to thank the Board of Supervisors for supporting Public Works and allowing us to make the changes needed in the department and in the county in order to compete successfully for these funds. And as funding sources that we're used to having are no longer available, we're able to look for new funding sources to still deliver the projects that are needed in the county. And it's directly due to the Board of Supervisors' actions in allowing us to make the changes in Public Works so that we can be successful in competing for these additional funding sources. I'd also like to thank staff for an outstanding job in securing the funding for this project. Jonathan Mitchell and his engineers, Steve Hollenbeek and the rest of the engineering crew have done an outstanding job in not only securing this funding but other funding sources, and they're still out there pounding the pavement looking for money for the county to be able to deliver additional projects. And with that, I would also like to thank Caltrans FHWA for partnering with us on this project, and we look forward to delivery. I believe we'll be obligating the funds in August of 2011 and construction beginning in 2012. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Garcia, I have a question about this 30-degree slope. If the roadway is approximately level, is it a 30-degree slope upward or downward?
Downward.
Okay, so at the edge of the pavement, it slopes downward 30 degrees to what length is that?
Until you meet the shoulder. It depends on the width or the depth of the pavement.
Okay.
Section.
All right.
That allows for a tire not to just slip off the edge, but it gives a gradual. And there is a picture. We can.
So that 30-degree slope is constructed with the same material with rock base and
Asphalt, correct.
Okay. All right. Good. Very nice.
Mr. Garcia, is there going to be any comments from the bicycle riders?
Actually, that had just come up. We had discussed whether or not this was bicycle friendly or not, and the determination is that it is. But that is one of the things we're going to be looking at when this opens up, just how it treats the bicycle community. But the thought is that for 30% slope, you have better chance of riding on that slope than on the gravel adjacent to it.
Oh, for sure. I almost hesitate to bring this up, but it is a topic of discussion. That lately, it seems like that when the Board of Supervisors has considered applying for grants, it has suddenly become very much of a negative in some people's minds, that we shouldn't be pursuing grants, that there's all sorts of pitfalls and stuff in these, or potential pitfalls in these grants. I just want to make it clear to anybody who's listening to this that this is there's no strings or extenuating circumstances associated with that.
There's not, and in fact, this particular program is very unique because most federal grants or other funding requires a certain percentage of non-federal fund match. The uniqueness of this program is that the federal government allows these funds, so the $300,000, to actually act as that non-federal match. So in this instance, getting this grant was beneficial because it actually completed the funding for the project that otherwise you could not use federal funds for. So I would say no strings. In fact, in this situation, it worked out just very well.
Okay, Mr. Harmon, thank you very much for that explanation.
Mr. Garcia, Mr. Mitchell, do you have any other comments to make?
I would like to take the opportunity to thank staff for being able to pursue this grant, all the hard work and effort that went into formulating this project from the beginning. It's a $1.5 million roadway improvement project, and it has no impact to the road fund because of the contributors that we have seen with Highways for Life, the Highway Safety Improvement Program grant, the Calvert Council of Governments, and the RIM. funding source. So a special thanks to Steve Palmbeek, who's put in incredible work working back and forth with the agencies to make this grant happen. So thank you very much, Steve. I really appreciate that. So I'd like to get a photo, if I can, take a quick moment.
Jonathan looks like a tourist.
Jonathan, do you let me do it? I'll do it.
Oh, that's good.
I guess I could ask Dean and Nickel. I'll take the picture.
She'll take the plaque.
I think it's better they're not up here.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, it's not good yet, so we need a motion on this. Supervisor Walensky.
Yes,
Jonathan,
I would move,
don't build it according to this. That's a 45-degree angle. So.
nevertheless, I'll still move to approve the minute order on this matter.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on a 5-0. Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. I'd like to move to public comments. If anyone has an item they would like to discuss, not on the agenda and under the jurisdiction of the Board of Supervisors. Yes, you, please, Jean. Thank you.
I'm Jean McComber from Arnold, and
Okay, Jean, I'm
Yes.
being given directions by my colleagues.
Oh.
Those people who are in the lobby who would like to come in, please come in.
There's seats right in front over here that you're welcome to sit in.
Could you close the door, please? Thank you.
the first thing I'd like to say is to thank Supervisor Thomas for going to the DAAC meeting on Thursday night and hearing all the interest for the the interest from the Captain Ballard and Sergeant Murray about the animal shelter and the needs there. I was very happy to see you there.
That was a good meeting.
Yeah. Calaveras Humane Society and the County of Calaveras have had an agreement stipulated in the resolution of December 15, 2009, that within 1 year, the county would recommend one or more locations on which to build a new animal shelter for the county to be managed and maintained by the Humane Society in a public-private partnership with the county as part of a long-term lease agreement, the participatory points of which are yet to be arranged and agreed upon. That still is extant, and the Humane Society is going forward with efforts to raise funds for the project. We've met with your staff on a few occasions, and they've come up with 2 possible sites. If you recall, we were to meet in a study session with you in mid-August to pin down one of them. Understandably, due to budget issues, August and September went by the boards. However, it's now mid-October, and no session has been scheduled for this very important meeting. We cannot begin a capital campaign for millions of dollars until we have a site committed to the shelter. Our members and really the public at large who love and care for animals have waited for many years for this opportunity, and the county has postponed and reneged on almost every agreement prior to this one. So we don't want this one to go by the boards. We were very excited last December when we at last had a promise. A resolution from this county is, after all, a promise to go forward within 1 year. It's October of the year the promised decision is to be made, and the ball is in your court. it's time to live up to our agreement. Anyway, and I've heard some rather disturbing reports from different people regarding the possibility that the county and the Humane Society can't get together on their agreement. And I want to set that aside right away. We are in agreement that we are going to continue this. And I want those rumors to stop. Okay, that's it.
Jean,
Yes.
I have not heard those rumors.
Oh,
and
good.
You know I would be the one that would hear them. The county is still committed. We are getting data from sewer and water districts.
Still?
What's needed, yes. I mean, they don't operate on our time or your time. They operate on their time.
I know.
And Brian Moss, who's our project manager on this, is working on this issue. We have been in contact with the architect for the Humane Society.
Good.
So we will not be having a study session next week, though. We feel that to have a study session, there needs to be something to discuss that's definitive.
And it has not happened.
And no, there's not, because we still are gathering information from other entities that have a role to play in this. It's not just a county Humane Society issue.
Right.
So, I mean, you know me, I'm the cheerleader of this, but
And I really am an impatient person, and I recognize that.
you are?
Yeah.
No.
But, you know,
As soon as we have something that we can definitively talk about, we will be having a study session. The CAO is acutely aware of the commitment that the county made.
okay. That's
So,
it.
thank you, though, for keeping the issue in front of us.
Good morning, members of the board. Tyler Somerset, Calaveras Council of Governments. I'd like to give an update on a quiet, docile Sierra community, a little place called Valley Springs. Got before you today the final draft of the plan that was created over the course of the last year and a half. This is it. This includes the final draft plan and appendices A through G. This will go to the planning department. Because I'm a resident of Supervisor Callaway's district, one of the things we care most about are our trees. You guys will get these CDs here. The project partners, which includes the local government commission, myvalleysprings.com, and ourselves, the Calaveras Council of Governments, proudly transmit on behalf of the many community members of Valley Springs who participated in the community plan update, the final draft Valley Springs community plan. This plan is a cumulative product of the many efforts combined over the course of the last 2.5 years to secure funding for, organize, write, and complete this community-based effort. The Community-Based Transportation Planning Grant facilitated a public process that would not have otherwise been possible. This process included a 20-plus member stakeholder advisory committee, direct mail notification of meetings and community questionnaires, the hiring of a professional planning firm, the creation of banners and flyers to notice the community, the convening of community resource agencies, and the construction of a flexible process that allowed the project partners to react to what the community was saying. This broad outreach at times strained the community as hundreds of community members weighed in on the future of their community. The project documentation supplementing the plan attests to the many folks and interests we heard from in the area. Total community participation occurrences is in excess of 1,900. Like any community process which seeks input from broad and diverse members of a place, it is impossible to please all the people all the time, and this process was no anomaly. However, community values and priorities were captured throughout the collaborative process. This project held its first Stakeholder Advisory Committee meeting in March 2009 and its last community meeting on September 15, 2010. During this time, the community identified a myriad of community characteristics which have drawn them to Valley Springs, and a handful of issues which serve as a thorn in the side of the community. It is these places of the heart and issues, such as circulation, jobs, flooding, that the community plan spends its time addressing. In the document, you will find the public process recreated, because it was here that the project partners got direction on what to address, protect, improve, and enhance in the community. Chapters 6, 7, and 8 are designed to provide a means for community members, planners, builders and developers, the Planning Department, Planning Commission, and the Board of Supervisors to appropriately respect the desires of the community. We urge you to take an open, in-depth look at the community plan and supporting documentation before you. On behalf of the many folks who have diligently participated in their community plan update, we thank you for finding a way to incorporate the voice of a community into the larger county planning process. And finally, while I'm here, I'd like to share a few words regarding one of the project partners. Prior to the community plan grant discussions, I had never interacted with these individuals. To date, I have never worked with individuals as enthusiastic, dedicated, and informed regarding the state of their community. Never have I worked with individuals who have invested more time, energy, sweat, and research into the area in which they live. And regretfully, never have I worked with individuals whose contribution has been more marginalized, maligned, and outright misrepresented. I would like to say that working with Katherine Jackson, Mark Jones, Joyce Teckel, Muriel Zeller, and Colleen Platt has been a transformational experience for me. I would like to thank them for their participation in the effort to update the community plan. The organization was included as a project partner to help create the broadest public participation possible. I think it would be fair to say they have succeeded beyond anyone's wildest dreams. They have walked door to door in the community, posted flyers with area businesses, attended enough meetings to last into retirement and beyond, encouraged community members to get and stay involved, and provided critical, constructive feedback regarding project deliverables throughout the last year and a half. They truly understand what community participation means, and I don't simply mean how many people attended, but who was represented, who was missing or underrepresented, and what will it take to get these individuals involved at the next opportunity. Many voices and issues have resonated from within their community, and I've been witness to each of them in their own way push for more inclusiveness, more in-depth investigation, and more flexibility in the process to ensure that the broadest and most complete community plan could be created. We certainly would not have the document you see before you today without their Herculean efforts.
Mr. Somerset, you're almost finished.
In closing, I would like to sincerely thank these individuals for their efforts to build community, protect the things most cherished in the region, and for what I'm sure are thousands of hours invested in Valley Springs, and by extension, Calaveras County and the Sierra Nevada Range. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
5
morning.
minutes per person.
Mine's short. Mark Jones, My Valley Springs. I wanted to thank COG for stepping up to fill the void in the leadership created by the county to administer the funds for the Valley Springs Community-Based Transportation Planning Grant. Calaveras Council of Governments also funded the required match amount to meet the program requirements, and facilitate the scope of work. And also thanks are in order to Caltrans for the funds to provide the citizens of Valley Springs the opportunity to get involved and plan their own future. What we have before you here today is a successfully completed Valley Springs community plan that I support. And Joyce would like to read a letter from Caltrans.
I'm Joyce Tekel, and after what Tyler said, I'm darn proud to be board chair of myvalleysprings.com. This is a letter from the Department of Transportation dated October 14, 2010, addressed to Timothy McSorley. The California Department of Transportation appreciates the opportunity to review the Calaveras Council of Governments Valley Springs Community Plan. The department awarded the grant in September 2008. A fund transfer agreement was executed on January 31, 2009, with the direction to start work on that date, and is scheduled to expire on February 28, 2011. The department finds that all deliverables have been provided to the department's satisfaction, with the exception that the final document should be forwarded to the department and the state library. COG is commended for fulfilling the conditions in its scope of work and meeting the milestones of the project schedule. Please continue to forward all requests for reimbursement to our attention. The draft community plan and appendices were reviewed by our office. The department defers additional comment until such time as the specific projects and plans are advanced for implementation. If you have any questions or would like to discuss these comments in more detail, please contact Michael Robinson, and his contact information is here. Signed by John Gedney, Gedney, Chief of Office of Rural Planning Administration. That's the letter, and we wanted that on the record. I wanted to make a statement. As some of you know, I've been active in the community off and on for 35 years. This has been the most rewarding, challenging, and difficult project I have ever worked on. And I have never been prouder of myself or my community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tekel.
Good morning. Colleen Platt, myvalleysprings.com. I'd like to give a personal perspective to you this morning on the Valley Springs Community Plan. 5 years ago this month, in October 2005, I got involved with community planning in Valley Springs. I attended a town meeting for the first time for a large housing project being proposed and asked a few questions. The answers given were confusing and alarming. It sounded like traffic would increase dramatically, but the highway intersection impacts weren't going to be addressed by the developer. I wondered, how could this be possible? And so I started learning about the planning process. That project, which was located on the Pawnee Ranch, turned out to be mostly in a community plan area designated agricultural rural. I learned that the developer had been told his proposal was too big to move forward without letting the community know, and that it was too big of a change to consider without updating the Valley Springs Community Plan. This was in 2005. I also learned in this process that most development in the Valley Springs area hadn't been following any community plan. Even though there was a 1974 community plan, nearly all the residential growth over the years had been occurring in subdivisions outside of that plan area. Was there any overall plan for this area? There didn't seem to be. I learned that we had a county general plan, and I learned that there were things called general plan amendments and zoning amendments, and they changed current land use. I also learned that there was literally dozens of new subdivisions proposed or already approved in the Valley Springs area. Thousands of residents of the Valley Springs community weren't included in the community plan area, and thousands of acres were in line to be converted and developed without a plan. That was in 2005. Fast forward 5 years, and here we are, October 19th, 2010. We now have a draft community plan before us that includes these thousands of community residents. MyValleySprings.com was part of this community-wide effort involving hundreds of citizens attending dozens of public meetings over the years. This was a public and community effort creating the plan given to you today. The county now has been given 2 new and different Valley Springs community plans. One plan, the Citizens Committee Plan, submitted last month, is basically a remake of the 1974 plan with some land changes while keeping the same boundaries. The plan submitted today, the Community Plan Update administered by the COG, is a new look at the Valley Springs community. It has new boundaries that reflect what's on the ground, where the current population is, and where growth is planned. The plan has updated land uses consistent with the direction of the general plan update and contains goals and policies that reflect how the community wants to grow. We believe this document best looks to the future. Both plans need to be thoroughly studied as part of the general plan update process in order to make the best decision for the Valley Springs community as a whole. We need a new community plan in place to guide future development while preserving the quality of life for area residents. The plan presented today has a vision for future growth that maximizes infrastructure and community services, plans for better roads and circulation options, and preserves the unique features that make Valley Springs special. You can help this happen. Please give this plan the careful consideration and review that it deserves. Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen.
Good morning. Gary Caldwell, Valley Springs. Madam Chair, members of the board. First of all, I want to congratulate the Public Works Department for receiving the award from Caltrans, and I appreciate Mr. Harmon, I don't know if he's still around, taking his time, the interim district director for Caltrans in Stockton, taking his time to come here and make that presentation personally. I think that was very nice of him to do that. Those of you who are aware, I think, know that I was a stakeholder on the stakeholders committee of the community plan, Valley Springs Community Plan, and I was also on the stakeholders committee of GVSAG, the Greater Valley Springs Area Advisory Group. The stakeholders committee also had seats on its committee for the county's planning department and public works department, but after 1 or 2 meetings, the county abandoned its chairs at the table and never showed again, as far as I'm aware of, at any of the meetings. What we did have, however, we had a participation by the community and by citizens. There were, I think the board knows, there were 5,900 postcard community questionnaires, community interest questionnaires sent out. There were over 800 responses. And 75% of those that responded considered themselves to be part or associated with Valley Springs itself. I think this is indicative of the fact that there are people outside the sphere of the downtown area of Valley Springs that consider Valley Springs their community. There were over 20 public meetings, 50 notices and press releases, news articles. Every meeting, before every meeting, there was an email sent to the stakeholders committee members reminding them of the meeting date and time and so forth, and urging we stakeholder committee members to attend. And cumulatively, there were over 2,000 residents in the community that participated in the process, whether it was attending meetings or writing letters or responding to questions that were posed in the questionnaires. You have before you that was submitted to you today, a professionally done document. The firm EDAW, who is the major consultant on this project, has done hundreds of community plans for mother lode communities, foothill communities. And the thing that I wanted to point out too, one of the things I wanted to point out too about their work is that they did it on budget, contrary to the general plan update by Mr. Mintier, who's now into the county for triple the original amount of the contract. Also, as was already mentioned by Colleen, this plan that before you also contains land use designations that are consistent with the proposed general plan update. So it should fold neatly right into the general plan update whenever that arrives. God knows when that's going to come. Hope
No
so.
faith, Gary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I want to mention one more thing to Supervisor Tryon. Supervisor Tryon at the COG meeting is very critical of public transit and the lack of ridership. On my way here to the board meeting this morning, I saw not one, not two, but 3 empty yellow 40-passenger school buses. And I've mentioned this before, that Mr. Tryon seems to criticize the public transit system for having empty buses, but when I bring it to his attention the school district operates empty buses too, I don't see any action being taken. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. Does anyone else have an item they'd like to address under the jurisdiction of the board?
Yeah, I would like to speak in favor of the plan.
Could you identify yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry.
please?
My name is Janice Bassett
Thank
from
you.
Valley Springs. And I would like to speak in favor of the plan that was presented today. The thing that I think most highly about it is the process. Because I'm fairly new to this community, but my husband has been here for many years, and he has seen this community just skyrocket in population, and yet the infrastructure has not been kept in tune with the growth in our population. And when I heard about the community plan and I saw the notices around town, I was so excited, and I told everybody that I saw, come down to the meeting, there's a community plan happening, come on everybody. And I just commend Joyce and Muriel Zeller and Colleen Platt for doing the hard work of making this community plan a reality, and to the COG for helping to implement it. And I just think that the process was very inclusive, and that's what we need. We need for the people to be involved because, after all, this is their community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bassett.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Errol McDaniel, and although I don't live in Valley Springs, I do have a business there for the last 25 years. I'm here to speak briefly in favor of the Valley Springs Community Plan that was the culmination of a very exhaustive public process. I too served on the Stakeholders Committee for this public process community plan, as did some of the members of the Alternative Community Plan facilitated by Supervisor Tuffanelli. I hold them in high regard, even as I disagree with them. Contrary to some criticism, there were no rules that required permission to come from the community to apply for grant funding to update the Valley Springs Community Plan. I, too, am very grateful to those who had the energy and forethought to ask and ultimately receive grant funding to do the work on behalf of the Valley Springs community. Also, contrary to comments about public notice, it would have been very, very difficult to avoid knowing about the meetings and the fact that this process had been going on for more than a year. There was an exhaustive campaign to get out as many participants as would attend the meetings. There was visible signage all over town, newspaper ads and articles, direct mailings to all 95252 residents, sign-in sheets with emails and contact information, local websites, county websites, word of mouth, and door-to-door visits in Valley Springs proper. Please weigh heavily as you decide what plan is appropriate to be included in the general plan update.
That's fine.
Please weigh heavily as you decide what plan is appropriate to be included in the general plan update. The fact that this was a community effort where the public was heavily encouraged to attend and participate, sharing their views, their values, and their visions for their community is reason enough. Anyone who chose to attend and participate was very welcome and encouraged to attend again and again. This was a very strict process that had to be followed, and it was followed. Do not discount the many citizens who did join in this effort. Do not disqualify their work. Please give little weight in your decision to what is, in my view, nonsense arguments that this process was biased or other than a community plan, than a community effort. Just because a few did not like the results is not enough to ignore the public process. Please give little weight to those accusations about socialist agendas and conspiracy theories. Their accusations are non-productive and irrelevant. This was nothing more or nothing less than a very professional process to be able to update an out-of-date community plan that represented the majority of Valley Springs community who chose to attend and participate. It was important that the community plan meet very high standards necessary to be included in the general plan, and that the update would be submitted on time. I'd like to also thank the Council of Governments for responding to the request for funding and responding to the request to facilitate the process for the people of Valley Springs when there were no other willing options available to them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Marty Crane, Valley Springs, Rancho Calaveras. I also was a member of the Greater Valley Springs Advisory Group and the stakeholders committee, and I'm just thrilled. Today is a banner day. Elected supervisors, Madam Chair, I relocated to Valley Springs in 1992, and the stunning new developmental changes and growth was immediately evident. I can't tell you how many times I shared with my newly discovered neighbors and friends that change is obviously coming. We should pay attention. Wouldn't it be nice if we all liked what we saw when we got it? Then I went on with my busy life, tending to other things in the community I felt concerned and passionate about. Apparently everyone else did as well, or so I thought. Conversations began, centered around updating our county general plan, and suddenly there was a sign in the middle of town and a notice in the local paper announcing a town hall meeting to hear about land use planning and to begin the discussions around the future development of our unique Valley Springs community. I attended that meeting in October of 2007 and almost every one that followed up until now. So thankful for the educational opportunities offered to all interested parties. No strings attached. As I have also discovered over the years, most if not all good ideas and grassroots movements start with one or two local citizens recognizing a critical need. These gifts of educational opportunities focused on planning started with a small group of concerned and dedicated citizens that we would soon come to know and appreciate and know as myvalleysprings.com. In early 2008, myvalleysprings.com took a resource and supportive role to the Greater Valley Springs Advisory Group. We called it GVSAG, which formed for the purpose of creating a community vision to be used for the general plan and community plan updates. In 2008, myvalleysprings.com partnered with a local author and writing talent, the Calaveras Council of Governments, the Local Government Commission, and the County of Calaveras, and secured a Caltrans community-based transportation grant for Valley Springs to help us go through the process of figuring out who we are, how we got where we are, where we would like to be in 20 to 30 years, and just how we could define all that in a written document to be used as a guide for county staff and supervisors as they make development decisions for our area. Some of the pieces of this process can and absolutely have been contributed by volunteer hours, skills, labor, and in-kind. However, educating the public through professional presentations to show ideas and options, this is, after all, a we process, moderating and facilitating meetings, doing the extensive mapping and research, providing maps and other materials for meetings, advertising, sending mailers and questionnaires, media outreach, signage, and supplies are all things that were only available to us with financial support. We were not prepared to forego community input for lack of funds. The more community voices at the table, the better the end product. While the Caltrans grant was awarded in 2008 with the county as the lead agency, we all know that at that time our county government was struggling with many challenges, and not the least of which was constant staffing changes. Our Calaveras Council of Government team stepped in to do what was necessary to facilitate the open and transparent community efforts to update our Valley Springs Community Plan. Many community meetings and multiple outreach scenarios were employed and focused towards gathering the data and community input. Many challenges were met, including the plan boundaries and land use designations. We need to remember here that the county was at that time streamlining and redefining the county land use designations as well. There were some concerns and confusion, but most differences were resolved via ongoing real communications. Community is many times challenging. It is by working through these challenges that we grow together, move forward, and meld ourselves into a team of neighbors who are committed to protecting and enhancing our home, our economy, and the future security of our populace. What has been presented today is the product of extensive community outreach. This is a good plan with real solutions and ideas for the future of Valley Springs that will preserve and enhance our community. We ask that you respect, appreciate, and use this consensus community plan as you create a blueprint for the future of Valley Springs area. Both plans, this Valley Springs Community Consensus Plan and the Tofinale Community Plan, should be equally reviewed and analyzed so the best decisions can be made for the Valley Springs community and the Calaveras County General Plan update. If our communities and our county are to be successful in our plan updates, it is critical that our county supervisors are on board and supportive of broad-based, open, and transparent community efforts. Thank you for your support as we help bring the voices of our community forward, and for your continued dedication to all the citizens of the Calaveras County.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Those of you who have cell phones and electronic devices, please put them on vibrate, quiet, or off. Thank you. Clyde, thank you.
Marty, I'm Clyde from Valley Springs, and I'd just like a clarification on public comment. To my understanding, it was 5 minutes per person, 15 minutes per subject. Am I correct on that?
Yes and no.
Which part's a yes and which part's a no, please?
The part that's yes is 5 minutes per person. In the interest of this is an open forum, we've dropped at the moment 15 minutes per topic. Thank you for the clarification. And that was good. That was only 30 seconds, so I appreciate it.
Good morning. 4 minutes, 30 Melanie Jones, Valley Springs, and I'll be very brief. The proposed Valley Springs Community Plan is the result of a huge public outreach effort. The meetings were always well advertised, well attended. There was ample opportunity for all to participate along the way. I attended most, if not all, of those meetings. Being part of this process was very exciting for me. The proposed Valley Springs Community Plan is a collection of values and priorities from a broad base of community members. It is a good plan. It has good ideas and real solutions. It will encourage future growth in Valley Springs in existing community centers. It will preserve and enhance our community. I appreciate the opportunity to participate in this process, and I strongly support the proposed Valley Springs Community Plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Holly Mines from Railroad Flat. However, I do not pretend to represent Railroad Flat in my comments. I'm representing, I guess today I'm going to represent the outside agitators community and the wealth distributionist community in stating my strong support for both the process and the product of the new Valley Springs plan, which is presented to you today. I took a fairly large role in helping to coordinate the planning effort that we made in District 2 under Steve's leadership, and as you all know, we presented our plans quite a while ago to this same board. However, I hasten to mention that the plan, which was presented by Railroad Flat, is about 3 pages long, and while I'm very proud of the effort that we made, we do not face the same kinds of threats regarding population explosion and potential for rapid development as exists in the western part of the county. So what we were able to produce without any assistance or any money from any outside organizations, I do not believe would have been possible for the Valley Springs community. I believe that it was absolutely necessary for them to have a process which was funded and facilitated by professional people that were able to guide in the process. And I attended several of the meetings. I never once voted when people had the opportunity to vote. I simply observed meetings, and I found them to be very democratic, very open, and I too want to compliment the work that was done by the organizations involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Mai. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the topic? Under the jurisdiction of the board. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Cameron Todd. I'm a citizen of the Valley Springs community. First time speaking here. I just wanted to speak in support of this plan. I've lived there since the inception of this, and I have seen a process that I think was very transparent, very welcoming to the community, and the product that I see is professional and something that I think will serve the community well into the future. So I just wanted to pass that on to you as a citizen that I think it's a good plan.
Thank you, Mr. Todd.
Good morning. My name's Bonnie Newman from Double Springs. Mr. Toffanelli, I looked up Mike Procola. He's either unlisted, no longer in the county, or is no longer with us. So I did do a little bit of homework. Today I'd like to thank Darrell Rusk for being the messenger between Amador and Calaveras, helping us network a little bit with the Agency on Aging or the Commission on Aging in Amador County by delivering these signs that we hope to be using maybe at a rally at some point. And lastly, I'd like to say that this past weekend I went to Fresno for a union gig. It was a leadership conference, and it's always good and it's always bad. We have a chance to meet other people from other areas and find out what they're implementing in their county, what new policies they're embracing, and that's always good. What's bad is sometimes coming back to Calaveras County and trying to incorporate it into something that has maybe been established for a number of years and may need looking at or revamping. Oftentimes we see a lot of resistance to change, something that I've experienced in the past year, a lot of resistance to change, but once again I came back energized, maybe more educated than I should be. Sometimes what you know can hurt you. But I intend to carry on whatever I've learned at this conference and hopefully to try and incorporate it into what exists in Calaveras County now. And that's all today.
Good. Thank you.
I'm Terry Baker from Railroad Flat, and I have a couple letters I'd like to read. One from last week. I was a little late getting here, so I'd like to read it for today, and then I have today's that I'd like to read, and I should be able to get it in within 5 minutes.
If not, I'll tell you. Thank you.
Well, if I go over maybe a minute. I'm hoping that you'll give me time because it's signed
Could you please continue?
It's signed by
Thank you.
4 individuals.
Could you please start, because you're using your time. Thank you, Mr. Baker.
Thank you very much. This is regarding the Ag Dispute Resolution Committee's mediation and fair hearing and fact-finding case against Roberta Carolyn Redmond's 10-10-07 issue in dispute. The complaint that the neighbor's testimony resulted in criminal conviction. Deer County and Board of Supervisors, our families who Roberta Redmond complained about to your Ag Dispute Resolution Committee would like to take this opportunity to thank you all supervisors who are the committee's legislative parent body for all your help, assistance, and involvement in your attempt to resolve Redmond's complaint through the committee's initial fact-finding team and as expeditiously as possible. Unfortunately, as our legal notice dated September 28, 2010 informed you all, Roberta Redmond even refused to comply with her own agreement made with the initial fact-finding team, which destroyed a chance of any early resolution. We would also like to thank Mr. Garamendi from the Calaveras Cattlemen's Association and the Cattlemen's Association also for their valiant attempt to resolve Roberta Redmond's complaint expeditiously through their team agreement with Redmond. We also thank Mrs. Coe for her team effort as well as a public member of the initial fact-finding team. It is truly a shame that the team's informal attempt failed. Had the team's agreement been complied with and not breached, it is possible that the Redmond's complaint may have been resolved to the mutual satisfaction of all parties involved, as the committee's Rule 6, Paragraph 5 states. As it now stands, Roberta Redmond's complaint has not been resolved to the mutual satisfaction of the responding parties, which are our families. So our families are now looking forward to proceeding with the mediation and the fair hearing and facts-finding process made available to us as consenting responding parties. Our families have patiently waited some 7 months now for the teams out of the rules attempt and gave everyone a fair chance. Our families are and have been willing to try anything and give people all an opportunity. Now our families will have our own opportunity with Rule Number 7, mediation and fair hearing and fact-finding procedures. We have yet not been contacted by the committee itself or the chairman, Mary Mudds. Please see to it that no further time is wasted unnecessarily. We all want to sit down and mediate with Roberta Redmond and see what it is that she wants out of us and resolve this dispute with our families. Thank you very much. We appreciate your concern. And this next letter is a formal written and signed ADRC form from separate responding parties and ranches. Dear ADR Committee, Parent Legislative Body, Board of Supervisors, Rule Number 6 of your Ag Dispute Resolution Committee rules require that our commercial ranches, which are the complained about or responded parties as referred to in the rules as a concerned party or parties, must request that the ADRC attempt to resolve Roberta Redmond's 2007 issue in dispute through the submittal in writing on the form approved by the committee dispute information form, for which must be signed by a concerned party or parties. We therefore now formally give our consent to the ADR committee with this rule required for submittal. Please note that the Redmond submitted 2 separate forms and made 2 separate disputes against our separate commercial ranches. Please see to it that although we will work together as much as possible, that you please give both of our ranches separate cases in this matter. Thank you. Please move forward as soon as possible with your mediation process. We will be submitting our exchange of information in the near future. If there are any questions, please feel free to request answers in writing, and we will respond in writing as well. Thank you again for your help and your assistance to our commercial agricultural operation and ranches. We will do everything in our power to help the ADRC mediate and resolve Roberta Redmond's dispute. We are all terribly sorry that our criminal court testimony for the people of the state of California resulted in Redmond's criminal conviction and sentencing. But there is little we can do now to resolve Redmond's dispute. We will cooperate to our fullest extent and look forward to being involved in this ag resolution process between commercial agricultural operations. We must work together to protect agricultural operations such as ours and to defend all of our ranches. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. You did get your extra minute. Is there anyone else who would like...
And this is our form.
Yes, we saw that. Thank you. Is there anyone else who has an item they'd like to address under the jurisdiction of the board? And it's only 5 minutes. That was a very rare exception.
Good morning. I'm Tanya Dowson from Burson, and I have one request and one comment. My request is that since the board packet states that the Board of Supervisors may act on correspondence, I would like to request that the board packet include all of the correspondence. And then my comment is that throughout history, democracies have failed miserably. That's why our founders set up a system where a popular majority cannot vote away the rights of the minority. While it's good for the Board of Supervisors to be aware of the desires of the community, the first responsibility of the Board of Supervisors is to protect the inherent rights of the individual people. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Then the last person to speak in comments will be Captain Ballard.
Get the final word, Ed.
All right, I'll make it quick. Good morning, Captain Ballard, Sheriff's Department. Just want to let you know we did have a DAC meeting, or Domestic Animal Advisory Committee meeting, on the 14th. Sergeant Murray put together a very good presentation. We presented it to them. The primary goal was to see if we could facilitate some possible policy changes towards public safety, and then improving our efficiencies with through policies, and we'll need your help on that. The Domestic Animal Advisory Committee, I'll be working with them to try to facilitate this, but we probably will not be able to get to you until late January to do the board study session. There's a lot of data that we need to finish up for you. So I just want to let you know it'll probably be late January before we can get to you.
Okay. Thank you, Captain Ballard.
Thank you.
I'm closing public comment. I'm going to be moving to item 7. The present.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to give one comment, if I may, on the public comments. I guess I'm concerned about what the process we just went through on the Valley Springs community plan that was presented. It seemed to me that what we just went through was basically 45 or 50 minutes of a very well-organized political rally. And I don't think this is the place or the forum during a Board of Supervisors meeting to conduct a political rally. If we look, I guess I take greatest, I mean, we do have rules, and one of the rules is 5 minutes per person and 15 minutes per topic, and that prevents political rallies from taking place. I'm very concerned about the comments of the COG staff. The COG staff basically came in, and in a component of COG staff's comment, they basically, in my opinion, endorsed the myvalleysprings.com vision for the Valley Springs community plan. I don't think COG should be involved as a government agency in a political rally. I don't think they should be, and one of the things that got us into this problem was that they became very one-sided, in my opinion, in their advocacy for the community plan in Valley Springs. COG has put together a recommended community plan that has now been, as of this morning, delivered to the county. All the comments that were given, the 45 or 50 minutes of advocacy are fine, but they should be when the Board of Supervisors holds their study sessions and their sessions on the Valley Springs community plan. That's where those comments belong if you want to present an advocacy for one plan versus any other plan. So I'm concerned that we waived our rules, that in my opinion we allowed a political rally to take place for 45 or 50 minutes in the board chambers. That plan is now before the board. The board has an obligation, a legal obligation, and to me a moral obligation, to now go through the board's process on the Valley Springs community plan. And it will be a process that will be an open process. We'll have community meetings, we'll have study sessions, etc. It will be inclusive of people other than just myvalleysprings.com, and we'll see what comes out of that process. But this was a huge advocacy for one potential alternative, and in my opinion, that was entirely inappropriate what happened here this morning. So I just wanted to give my comments.
Thank you, Supervisor. Okay. I'd like to move now to item 7. The California State Association of County has an innovation award, and I'd like to introduce Karen Keene. She's a senior legislative representative with the California State Association of County, where she works on legislation and regulations affecting agriculture and natural resources. She's also CSAC, California State Association of Counties, Director of Federal Affairs, and we're really pleased to welcome you here today, Karen.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board and staff. I want to thank you for providing me with this opportunity to present your county with this very special award. As Supervisor Callaway indicated, I'm Karen Keene, and I'm here on behalf of the California State Association of Counties. I'm here to honor Calaveras County as one of only 10 counties to be recognized as a 2010 CSAC Challenge Award recipient. In fact, and even better, our judging panel selected this Calaveras County program to receive a I knew I'd get tongue-tied with California and Calaveras, to receive a California Counties Innovation Award. This is the top honor in our awards program and was one of only 2 counties to be presented the Innovations Award this year, and this is truly a great feat. There were actually roughly 250 submittals this year, and your county was competing with other counties like Los Angeles and San Diego and Alameda, so this really is a great award. By way of background, CSAC created the Challenge Awards in the mid-1990s to honor and recognize innovation in county government. The Challenge Awards spotlight the important point that California counties are constantly looking for better and more efficient ways to serve their residents. And as you know, never before has the name the Challenge Awards program been more appropriate than this year, when we've been faced with unprecedented demands and monumental fiscal crisis or constraints. Chairman Callaway, would you like to invite the appropriate staff
please.
To the podium?
Rita Downs.
There. On behalf of CSAC, I'm very pleased to present the 2010 California Counties Innovation Award to Calaveras County for the program Behavioral Health Educational Career Ladder.
Rita, is there anyone else you'd like to?
I'd like Krista Thompson.
Great.
Krista is our MHSA coordinator. Great.
Thanks, Krista.
Could you, what MHS is?
Mental Health Services Act coordinator, and
Thank
also
you.
coordinator of our workforce education and training plan.
As you know, Calaveras County Behavioral Health created an educational career ladder, sponsored previously non-existent certificate and degree programs, and funded tuition assistance to support staff growth. This program impressed our judges, who recognized the occupational shortages due to geographic barriers, inaccessible educational opportunities, and lack of local colleges or universities. The judges also recognized that this is truly a successful program. They were impressed by the fact that since the implementation of these programs, 40% of mental health staff has actually returned to school. The judges also recognized and were impressed by the fact that jurisdictions in other areas of the state could replicate this program. So we're hoping that some of the other counties facing similar obstacles will take note. With that said, I'm proud to present a 2010 California Counties Innovation Award to Calaveras County, and in particular, Rita Downs, Director of Behavioral Health Science Services, Substance Abuse Programs, and Krista Thompson, Senior Administrative Analyst, as well as members of the Mental Health Advisory Board. I've got this beautiful award here. Very pretty. It'd be very embarrassing to break it at the presentation. There you go. There you go. Thank you very much. Steve looks very proud of you, as are your 57 fellow counties. Hopefully they're a little jealous. Okay, I will try to do this without breaking it, although I have to say I just broke my coffee pot the other day, so chances are not good. Maybe I'll have Krista hold it for a minute. Okay, first of all, I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for your ongoing support for our multiple Mental Health Services Act plans that we have developed over the last 5 years and the implementations of those plans. I think that our department has probably been pushing the envelope to some extent, and I really appreciate all of your support as we do that. I want to thank Jeannie Boyce in particular. When I came to work here almost 6 years ago, one of the first things Jeannie talked about was the lack of a career ladder for all of the citizens in this county, as we didn't have a university, even a community college locally. She was very concerned that our department had no infrastructure and kept talking about this vision of having a career ladder. And I'm happy to say, 6 years later, we got it. But I wanted to thank her for her vision, and Colleen Tracy, the current Health Services Agency Director, for her work on now implementing the vision, which is the work, because as you know, all the work is in the details, as Jeannie always said. I also want to note that we have some very special people here in attendance. I want to thank our Mental Health Board. And first I want to thank our former chair of our Mental Health Board, John Limpert. Could you stand so we can all thank you for all of this? John was the chair during the implementation of our major projects and our community meetings and our pizza parties and all of the ways that we found to engage the community in our process. I also want to thank Steve Walensky, who's actually been the board representative to the Mental Health Board for 5 years, probably more than that by now. 6 years. And you almost understand that he comes to our board meeting on Tuesdays at 4 o'clock after working with you all in the community all that whole day. He still has some energy left for us at the end of the day, so we really do appreciate that as well. I want to thank the rest of our board members, and I'd like you all to stand. Sandy Morrell is the current chair, Rosemary Wilson, Brianna Creekmore, and is that all here today? Yes, thank you very much. We have some guests who've come to visit to see us get this award. Brian Kiefer, please stand. Brian is representative of the California Mental Health Planning Council and is on the Human Resource Committee, which has had the concerns of the rural mental health workforce in their sites for over 10 years now. And so we're very proud to be accepting this. And we couldn't have done it without your help as well. And we have Adrienne Chilton from the California Institute of Mental Health.
Thank you very much for coming as well. Been a support all the way along. Krista will be telling you a little bit more about our school programs, but just for the moment, I would like to introduce Dr. Robin Carter from the California State University of Sacramento School of Social Work. She's the head of the division, and thank you very much for coming and participating in our project at Cal State. Dr. Sue Taylor, also from the same department, who was very involved early on in the planning for workforce. And I have one more person to thank who's not here, a consummate bureaucrat from the Department of Mental Health, Warren Hayes, who was very, very helpful to us in planning our workforce project and making sure that we were doing it all legally and correctly, and our creative processes were put into the clear guidelines, and so he was very helpful with that process. So with that, I'm going to let Krista talk about our actual activities that we're doing and introduce our students to you.
Hi, I just want to reiterate Rita's thanks to all of you and to everyone here that has supported this program for the past 3 years. It really did start 10 years ago with a vision from the Policy Council that counties should create these kinds of career ladders and decide what supports would go into making the participants successful. And then when Jeannie came, she said, okay, you're here now, it's time to get that career ladder going. And so from there, we really looked at what we needed as a community. As part of our workforce plan, I actually met with all of our staff individually. And that kind of created this kind of informal academic advising that has been a really, I think, innovative thing for our department. We met with each student and discussed what their career goals were and what their educational goals were. And based on that information, we realized that we really needed a more accessible master's program, and a master's program in social work had the most flexibility for us at the time. And so Dr. Taylor and I were at several common meetings at the state at that time, and she connected us with Dr. Carter, and so that program was born in collaboration with several other small rural counties in our area. And it became the first program of its kind to offer a master's in social work in rural mental health. And so that was a huge feather in our cap. From there, we stepped back and said, okay, well, we have a good solid base of bachelor staff, but you know, that entry-level education just doesn't exist in any of the 3 counties that surround us. And so we collaborated with Columbia College, and I would definitely like to thank Tuolumne County and Mike Torok, the head of that program at Columbia as well, for their help in getting 2 new programs in psychology off the ground. These were the first 12-unit psychology programs in psychosocial rehabilitation to be offered in the state. And so we are now at 3, first of their kind in California. But we weren't done. We realized that we needed to take it a step even farther back and assist with some of the preparation that would be needed for particularly our consumers who are returning to school and to work. So we implemented some preparation programs as well to really ensure the success, so that on every rung of the ladder, from our entry-level position all the way up to our psychiatrist, there were the supports in place that would ensure student and participant success. And what we found as part of this program is that we were really beginning to implement what's now called a supported education program. And supported education is really wrapping ourselves as a department around each individual student, helping them through the process from orientation and registration to creating cohorts so that there would be natural supports and groups that were already cohesive that could study together and support each other through the process. Ongoing case management when that was needed. And so we provided tuition assistance
community college reimbursement to support our workforce development. And then we provided loan assumption programs at the bachelor's and master's level to ensure that there were no longer the barriers that were keeping people from achieving their professional goals. And so I'm just very, very proud to have been a part of this program and to work with everyone in this room. And really the true success of this program is its students. And I'd like to invite those students to please stand at this time. These students represent 20 of our consumers who return to school. Approximately, I think we're at over 20 of our staff who have also returned to school. In our master's program, we have 8 Calaveras residents, more residents than any other county represented in that program. Over 40% of our staff have now returned to school. And the effects of that in our department and within our consumer community are just phenomenal. I have seen staff take on leadership roles both within our department and within the county. I've seen consumers start their own peer-run organizations, and that's something that just didn't exist 3 years ago. So I want to thank everybody again, and particularly the students, because they really, truly make my job as enjoyable as it really is. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Supervisor Walensky is the board representative. Did you have some comments?
Of course.
Surprise.
This really is a great moment for this county and for this department and the people both served by it and involved in it. But I think there are some basic principles of administration and sort of program development that bear thinking of. The first thing is that nothing changes without real leadership, and leadership willing to break out of sometimes the straitjacket of bureaucracy. Secondly, many people think that public sector workers are sort of got the blahs, uninspired, don't really care about mission, are happy to collect a paycheck and leave it there. That happens when we don't give people opportunity. That's what happens to people when there isn't an esprit de corps and a sense of mission. But the minute people give folks a chance to do a jailbreak and are asked, what is it that you want to do with your life in relation to the mission of this department? Take a look at what happened. It was the barriers to get into public service were broken down, and the consumers, who are always have perspectives on how to recover and to develop programs that actually have an impact on real lives, can come in and be welcome. And we make an investment in their success. And that people who might be in dead-end moments in their careers suddenly are freed to actually go to courses that make a difference in what they do on a day-to-day basis. That combination makes a big difference in the service we provide, but also the feeling that people have and the ownership that people have of their own careers and their own mission and their own department. We have gone from a department that really, to some extent, was thought of as a backwater. Just another rural county that's just trying to get by on the minimum. And we have, in a very short 5 years, taken it from there to winning an award that only a couple of counties in California even had a chance at. What I want to do at this moment is thank somebody who I think helped us. We've already recognized Rita and all the staff and the leadership that came through on this, but also the transformation of the advisory committee and the willingness to step forward was pioneered by John Lumberg here, who is really our greatest chair, a person whose dedication and inspiration led us to I think, in many ways to this moment. A guy who hails, by the way, from the great town of Sheep Ranch. Just had to say that, but also has a 1 foot in the Bay Area as well, but has shared his wisdom with us in ways that are immeasurable. We certainly welcome you back to this place and wish you best of luck in the challenges you face today. But it was a great team effort, and it's a great team result. I don't think anybody mentioned during the presentation what the percentage of our staff that participate in this is. It is? Okay, I missed that, but it's huge. It's 100%. What an amazing moment. Now the question is, can the public sector figure out a way to have this same inspiration and sense of mission spread throughout it? And I think this is a good message. It's a good moment. It was the right recognition for those of you in state organizations, and we're pleased to receive it. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing this.
Karen, on behalf of the board in Calaveras County, could you please thank CSAC and the judges for this honor?
Yes.
And thank you very much for coming. It was much more meaningful to have you here than to go to Riverside. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, we hope you found the previous stuff wildly entertaining as well.
I'd like to take a 5-minute recess, please. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Convene the meeting, please.
I don't know what his motivation is.
And move to item 8.
Sorry.
Okay. Good morning. Mary Sawicki, Calaveras Works and Human Services. On behalf of the IHSS Advisory Board, the department would like to request the board to consider approving a resolution declaring October 2010 as Disability History Awareness Month in Calaveras County. As folks may or may not know, there's roughly about 8,000 individuals in Calaveras County who have some type of disability that may cause some issues on occasion for the individual in their quality of life. This past year, in 2010, we are celebrating the 20th year of the American Disabilities Act, and we would like the board to consider acknowledging this issue. Thank you. This is Kathy Gould, who is with the IHSS Advisory Board.
Good morning. And I would just like to, again, as a representative of the board, request that you accept this resolution and promote the awareness of disability in Calaveras County. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Steve?
Madam Chair, I would like to move that we adopt this resolution and forthwith.
I will second.
Is there any further discussion? Is there any comments or discussion by the public before the board takes a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on a 5 vote. Thank you very much for bringing this forward. I'd like to move to item 9, a minute order approving corrected quitclaim deed.
I'm going to ask that the board pull this item. This came up. It was an urgent request from the AOC to make a change in one of the documents, the quitclaim deed. After I got it on the agenda, I was recontacted, and they said their bond counsel had discovered some other issues, had some other problems, and could we pull this item and come back in a week or two and address all of the concerns that their bond counsel had. So so I'm going to ask that you just take no action.
Was
there any indication on what the other problems were? They're, in my opinion, pretty minute details that the bond lawyer was concerned about, and I don't know exactly, but I think they're quite minor. Minor, very minor.
Can I have a motion to pull the item until council responds?
So moved.
Second.
Take a pick, Madeline. You can either do Steve or Gary. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on a 5-0. Thank you. Item 10. Excuse me.
This was an item that was brought to the board last week by Supervisor Toffanelli. He attended the meeting of the Central Sierra Planning Council in my absence, and I think that Larry Busby is here this morning. You might want to explain this to us.
Morning, board members. Larry Busby, Central Sierra Planning Council and Economic Development District. I would like to thank Supervisor Toffanelli and the County Administrative Officer and the Board Clerk for reacting to a very short-term request to address the Board of Supervisors today. To give you a short summary, and I told this to the Governing Board of the Planning Council at the board meeting on October 6th, effective the end of this month, our agency is going to be out of money. Use a term from Texas Hold'em, we're all in. We have all our money from the Planning Council, all our money from the Economic Development District has been expended in an effort to cover the costs for both the agency and the Housing Assistance Program since July 1st. And since July 1st, we haven't received any funds from the state of California because we're considered to be a vendor under the program to the state of California. And we have not been paid through the end of this month $80,000. So that's basically all the funds we have left for the agency. And everybody assumed, and we did too, that as of the date the budget was passed, we would soon get paid. I don't know how many of you have had a chance to look at the State Controller's website.
Yes, we've done this with 2 other agencies.
At the current time, when the budget passed, they owe $8 billion. Yes. The agencies like ours.
Say this again. After the budget's passed, there's an $8 billion shortfall.
$8 billion that's been accumulating in costs.
That they haven't paid while the budget was in limbo.
Okay, but now that it's passed, it'll be paid, and that's incorporated in the budget, that $8 billion.
That's correct. Okay. Except for one thing. The controller doesn't have the money.
The what?
The controller does not have the money.
So it's an interrupted flow.
Okay, well, is he going to do some short-term cash flow borrowing, or what's the alternative?
Well, their alternative is they have to wait till they get the money in. What they have is a chart. If you look at the second page here, you'll see a chart. Third page. They owe $8.3 billion in payments. They have $3.5 billion.
They have what?
$3.5 billion to make payments. They owe $8.
They have $500 million to pay on $8 billion?
They have $3.5 billion to pay $8.3 billion.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so what that means is, and he states so in his narrative here, who's going to get paid what, when, after the state budget's adopted.
It is adopted, isn't it?
There are going to be some agencies who get paid and a lot of agencies who don't get paid as of the date of this letter. And it's dependent, according to him, on whether their treasurer is able to sell revenue anticipation notes on the open market. It's dependent on, and according to the treasurer, that'll take 5 to 6 weeks. And it's dependent on how much money they actually get in terms of cash flow.
Tom, can we hear what you have to say?
That they'll have back in from their ongoing revenues they get. The problem they have is this is the time period where tax returns are not made to the state of California. In other words, this is their downtime in a time period when they usually sell RANs in the open market for the cash flow for the state of California to carry through the balance of the calendar year. And the next spring, they'll get more money. Basically, if you read his, what he's saying there is, you're going to get paid, not the budget's adopted, but we don't know when because we have a $5 billion shortfall. Now, at the time I addressed our board on this issue, the budget had not been adopted. The funding was unknown as to when we're going to get it, and when I discussed it with the board, I told them the same thing. We are out of money as of the end of October. We just don't have any reserves left. We don't have the cash left. We will get some small amounts of funding from receivables we have coming in from some of our contracts, but it won't be enough to continue the agency after the end of this month on a regular basis. So we have a few alternatives we looked at prior to the governing board taking some action. What we looked at was we had contacted local banks, Motorola Bank, we had contacted Regional Bank, and we had contacted national banks, all with a request to provide a cash flow or a bridge loan or a line of credit until such time as the state of California would be able to pay us. The response from all those private banks was, well, number one, your balance sheet is, you have no money. Number two, you don't have any collateral other than some computers and some old office equipment. And number three, you've never borrowed money before in your 30 years, so you don't have a track record. So the answer was politely, no, you're not going to. We cannot consider a loan to you under any basis, under any circumstances, because you can't meet basic underwriting requirements. I then contacted another banking operation, it's a statewide company. It's a nonprofit corporation that's a consortium of banks throughout the state of California who agree to pool monies and funds with this organization to be able to provide short-term working capital loans for private businesses. And the problem we had with that is we're not a private business. We're a semi-governmental agency as a joint powers agreement. So what I presented to the board was, and what the staff agreed to, they know that as of October 31, the agency's out of money. They also know we have obligations, contractual obligations with the state, contractual obligations with member counties and cities that can't be foregone, that we can't not do the work. So most of the staff works in the Housing Assistance Program. When I discussed it with them, they said, well, we understand the situation, and we don't know when the state's going to pay us, but we will voluntarily work for the agency until such time as we do get the money from the state of California. I say, well, it could be kind of difficult because you're not going to get paid and you're not going to get your fringe benefits or anything else. And they said, well, they understood that, but they also understood they didn't want to abandon 500 households who won't receive benefit under the Housing Assistance Program, nor their landlords, if we're not able to operate the program. That's what I presented to our board, and the board itself said, well, what we'd rather see you do, Larry, is go to the individual counties who receive assistance under the Housing Assistance Program and try and ask them for funding to tide you over until such time as the state of California makes the payment to you for the monies that are owed since July 1st. So basically, that's why I'm basically here today. I don't know if you received a packet that I had sent to the board.
Yes, we did.
You did see that? If you look on the board did pass an emergency resolution at that meeting authorizing the request, and I broke out the number of units by county that are serviced under the Housing Assistance Program, and then prorated that against what we determined we would need to have for the next 2 months to be able to continue the agency as is. And the shares are broken out by county based on that Housing Assistance Program need in each of those counties. So our request here today, or my request here today on behalf of the board, is that the Board of Supervisors consider a short-term loan. I don't know how sure it's going to be because I don't know when we're going to actually get paid. I'll be less pessimistic. We could get paid. I could go back to the office today and there's a check there. Okay, it could be there if we're part of that $3 billion they have that they're going to make payments out of. Or it could be November or December before we actually receive any money from the state. In the meantime, each month that goes by, we're absorbing costs of $20,000 a month. And because we're out of, we can no longer absorb that at the end of this month, that was the reason the board said go back to the counties and see if they can assist with a short-term loan. Now, one county brought up the fact that they would be losing interest on that loan, and so that county asked if we could pay their interest rate under their, I think it's called the pooled interest rate that they would normally get. And the board said, yes, that we could do that. And if a county desired to be paid that rate, we would pay the rate, whatever it was at the time, we paid the money back to pay that. And it would be on a basis of how long that money was outstanding from the county. So that's, which I felt was fair, because the county is taking money, their cash flow out of their treasury to provide that assistance for the agency, and it's a cost we would absorb out of the funds we actually get back. And I don't think that's not an unfair request. But it's up to each county to make that determination if they wish to do it.
Okay. Mr. Toffanelli, did you have any comments you want to make?
Well, I was in favor of this. I voted on this on that board representing Russ Thomas. I think we had a long discussion on it, and we've done it for 2 previous agencies. There was a discussion on paying back the pool percentage, but when it was calculated, I think it came out to, if it's only a 1-month loan, it came out like $7.
That's why I put no interest.
So
It's more hassle than it's worth.
That's up for discussion here. I'm not interested in having paying the $7 back.
You'll pay
I'm
20
interested
for the
in
staff time to...
Thank you, that's why I put no interest.
So I'm interested in getting the funds out to the people that need it and keeping the agency intact, because the discussion centered around the fact that if we weren't able to provide payments for the month of November, then we wouldn't be allotted any funds for that from the state, repayment funds, and it would start all over a cycle. So I was very much in favor of this, and I would like to make the motion that we adopt the minute order authorizing a short-term, no-interest loan in the amount of $7,800 to Central Sierra Planning Council, with repayment due upon the agency's receipt of funds owed by the state for fiscal year 2010-2011.
Second. Is there any public comments on this item? I'd like to bring it back to the board. Are there any board comments on this before we take the vote?
I have one. It appears, although we won't know until next week, that the motherlode job training monies will be coming through because it's a pass-through from the feds. And the question is whether they'll be able to process it in time by the end of the month so that the offered loan from the county will become unnecessary. But according to the agency, they had received at least some assurances that that would happen. So if that weighs on anybody, I think we will not have to loan that $58,000. That's the likely outcome, but again, we won't know until next week.
Yeah, the information I have from the state is that they seem to be kicking out the federal funds.
Yes. Yeah.
Same with Area 12.
Right, that's correct.
Right, so that's...
Is this part of the federal funds?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it may be that this becomes moot, but in case not...
They can't divert the funds for other purposes, so why wouldn't they, if it's just a pass-through...
Why didn't they do it 2 months ago, Tom?
That's right.
Yeah, that's...
They like the interest.
Because they wanted to pass a budget and they wanted to up the political pressure.
That's right. They wanted Washington to cough up some money to... But
now that the budget's been passed, there's no incentive whatsoever, it seems to me, to hold the money.
That's right.
Guess they can if they want.
Should be out this next week.
All right. I have a motion.
And Larry admitted he may go back to the office today and find a check in the mail. So.
Could be. If there is a check that comes before the end of the month, I will just withdraw the request at that time.
Okay.
Right. Could you please notify Jeannie Boyce?
Yeah, we'll be in.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
That's fine.
I mean, it's the same, Area 12's in the same position, Motherlode Job Training's in the same position. I think Jeannie's keeping on top of that. Okay, if there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on a 5-0. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
It's nice seeing you again. I'd like to move to item 11. Which supervisor would like to go first?
I did not have anything to bring before the board today.
That's a good one.
That's a good start.
That's a good start.
I expect the rest of you to move through in a plonking
I'll make the attempt. I have a 6 o'clock meeting. I'll be at the school board meeting tonight for the CUSD, which will be considering the fate of Railroad Flat School. I will be in Sacramento to meet with people involved throughout the Sierra and forestry issues. On Saturday, I'll be attending the Mountain Ranch Community Club Oktoberfest, followed by going to the premiere of the Made in Calaveras movie at Bret Hart.
What time are you going to be there?
I'm going to be there at 8 on the 8 o'clock show. And then I have the JPA for the Central Sierra Child Support at 2:30 on Monday the 25th, followed by the Forest Contractors meeting at the Vets Hall in West Point at 5:30 that night.
Mr. Tuffanelli.
Well, I will be at the premiere of this movie, but I will be there at 5 o'clock. That's at the Bret Hart Theater in Angels Camp. I did want to bring up something. I went to a Mountain Valley Emergency Services meeting last Wednesday in Modesto, and the supervisor from Stanislaus County passed out their assessment evaluation that they had concerning the fact whether they should pull out of this Mountain Valley Emergency Services LEMSA and form their own or go on their own or whatever. And he had just gotten it, so he didn't read it. Over the course of the last week, I've read it. And it basically puts forth some options. And one of the options was that they completely pull out of Mountain Valley and create a new 3-county regional EMS with Stanislaus, San Joaquin County, and Merced counties. That was one of the options. And then they would be competing against Mountain Valley for state funds, because we would be within a region that they would consider when they're going to regionalization. The state wants to that they would be within our region and they would be competing against us. And basically the way that it was proposed by the state, because they have the population, that they would be getting those funds. Well, in this document, it says that particular option is the least likely option to be supported by the system participants and stakeholders. It says Merced and San Joaquin County have functional EMS agencies that are meeting the needs of their counties. And so that wasn't recommended by this report. And it also says that the financial considerations, that option is not a financially sound option. Another option that was presented and they looked into was that the county, Stanislaus County, continues in its current relationship with Mountain Valley EMS and the other 4 counties. It says this option would not provide a long-term solution for Stanislaus County. To improve the current structure, the county could implement a performance-based agreement with clear, well-defined work objectives and identified time deliverables. The agreement could also provide that a percentage of the regional meetings be held in the county, which would acknowledge the contributions the Stanislaus County provides in support of Mountain Valley EMS. Well, I've been on this particular JPA for 2 years, and last Tuesday was the first time we met in Stanislaus County. They were offered a rotate. We've been rotating, and they've never shown a willingness to even host a meeting. But now they're saying in this assessment document that they want to be the lead agency or the lead county in facilitating these meetings. It was very strange when I read this, because it was always talked about that they'd never hosted a meeting, apparently, since we've joined Mountain Valley 5 years ago. It also says, under operational considerations, that Stanislaus County could propose to the JPA board
as a consideration for continuing with Mountain Valley Agency a list of issues that Mountain Valley needs to address with measurable deliverables and timeframes. They could also request change of leadership and ask that the JPA board meetings be rotated or be held in Stanislaus County as qualification to continue in the JPA. So basically what they're asking for is a change in leadership, which would be Steve Andreas, I think, as executive officer. Apparently they're not in concert with him for some reason, and I don't know because I wasn't part of this assessment that was going on, or evaluation. But Steve did say that he would meet with his staff, would meet with Stanislaus and go over what their concerns were and make a list and bring it back to our board for discussion. And then it goes on to say, in conclusion, it says, in summary, Stanislaus County residents have an EMS system in place with dedicated healthcare professionals proud of the service they provide. The EMS system suffers from a need for increased leadership that is responsive to the needs of the system. The EMS system needs leadership that can inspire collaboration and can provide greater accountability and transparency of the oversight services of the agency that the agency provides. So, where it goes from here and where they're going to go, we can only wait and see when Steve presents a list, their laundry list, to us at the next board meeting. It doesn't sound to me like they're going to pull out of it completely. I think they want to address some issues. Financially, it says in the report that it wouldn't be advisable for them to do that, especially at this time. So that's where we're at in Mountain Valley MS.
That concludes.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas.
Just one more thought on that. They gave their notice that they were going to be in it for a year, as I recall. As we come up on, I think we've been in this year-long period for 6 months or more, 6 or 7 months.
Well, they would have to give notice. They would have to continue to June 30th, but they would have to give notice by January that they were pointing out, because there's a 180-day period.
All right. That's good.
One other thing is I'd ask him, since he just got the report, when they thought this would be on their agenda. And he didn't think it would be on this Tuesday's agenda, but he thought it would possibly be up for a study session possibly next Tuesday on their agenda.
On the Board of Suits?
Yeah, the Stanislaus Board of Suits.
Okay. All right, thanks for that. Okay, as far as my board-appointed responsibilities this week, this isn't a responsibility, but I do have on my calendar I'd like to attend. This is a Chamber of Commerce quarterly luncheon. It's featuring Speaker Kristen Olson. That's going to be next Friday, the 22nd. I think that's going to be at Couts Ironstone, if I recall correctly.
At where?
At Couts.
And that's Saddle Creek? Is that the one on the Gulf?
No. This is a Chamber of Commerce quarterly luncheon. This featured speaker is our new assembly person, Kristen Olson.
So, you think it's at Ironstone?
I think it is, yes. But I've been wrong before. I'll be going to the Living by the Gun thing, but I had mentioned that I was going to go to the early showing, but there's a fundraiser for the schools in Copperopolis at 6 o'clock, so I think I'll go to that one and then go to the 8 o'clock showing with Steve. Living by the Gun. So, to see Supervisor Toffanelli die in that thing. So anyway, that's I have no other things to report.
You shot me because I didn't have a rotary pin.
I almost shot Buck King at one of those things out at the Millers.
Oh, did you?
I didn't know, and I'm pulling his gun. He says, "Marie, it's loaded."
So you dropped it, or it went off, or?
I can't tell.
This would be not living by the gun.
Yeah. Tomorrow I have Calaveras Public Power Authority. I'll too be going to the movie, but I'll be going at the 5 o'clock show. I'll be joining Steve at Child Support. On the 25th, I do want to remind the board about the Calaveras Fish and Game Commission.
That's not this week, is it?
On the 27th. I just want you all to please remember. So I brought something up, and I just want to discuss it. Maybe we could have a study session wherever the CAO might be on it. Steve just gave me a cartoon that said, we'd now like to open the floor to shorter speeches designed as questions. And, Clyde asked the question about 5 minutes per person, 15 minutes per topic. And then Tom said, that's been kind of our policy. Well, we've had lots of public comment sessions that have gone on for way over any 15 minutes. The 5-minute rule, pretty close. I do keep a timer. I've gotten questions about how do you know, and so I do try and give people their notice about how many seconds they have left. Public comment has been taking a lot of time, which is fine. I find that the most colorful part of the Board of Supervisors meeting. But sometimes we do have people, like we did today, from out of the area that were here for what should have been maybe a 9:30 item, and they don't get on till 10:15, 10:30, so forth. So I'm just throwing thoughts out to the board, and I've been talking to other county cities how they handle it. I just talked to one who said they no longer film public comments, and public comment time dropped substantially. So I'm throwing things out. As you notice on the agenda, it now says 5 minutes on subject matter under the jurisdiction of the Board of Supervisors. That is in government code. So if you want to talk about what Congress is doing, or what the state's doing, or what they're doing in Kansas City, that has no relevance to the Board of Supervisors of Calaveras, and people have been pretty good since we've started doing that the last month or so on keeping topics with what is within the jurisdiction of the board. So I'm just throwing thoughts out to the board that maybe we could drop the public comment time from 5 minutes to 3 minutes. We could put it on the agenda from 9:10 to 9:45, and then we go back to our regular agenda because this is a business meeting, and then after we've conducted our business meeting, we could go back to public comments. We could just do it at the end of the agenda, which I really don't recommend we do because people can get quite agitated waiting to do a public comment. Sometimes meeting topics, especially if they're land use, can go on for hours, if not days. So I'm just throwing it out for discussion for the board and how you might like to consider public comment. I mean, everyone has the right to say something on any non-agenda item under the jurisdiction of the Board of Supervisors. How we manage that is up to the board or up to the chair. For example, today I did grant Mr. Baker an additional minute, but to the courtesy of the public, you do keep within the 5-minute time frame, and we could drop that in there. If you don't have enough time, then you can come back the following week. So I'm sure you all have your thoughts. Different counties, cities do it differently. I'm throwing it out as a possible discussion. If it's an item a supervisor is really passionate about, it's going over 15 minutes is fine. If, like today, it's an item that a supervisor is not passionate about, as we experience, it's not fine. So, and there has to be some leeway for the chair, whoever the chair is. And the public comment is a time for the public to talk, not for the time for an exchange between the board and the public. So we try and keep that to a minimum. I had somebody ask me when we took a break, well, if a supervisor says something and it's an attack on me or something I said, then I don't get to respond. I said, okay, then we let you respond, and then it comes back to the supervisors, and the supervisors say something else, and then you want to say something. I said, I will tell you the supervisors have the final word in the boardroom. You have the final word when you vote. So, what's the pleasure of the board? Would you like to consider it? Would you like staff to maybe do some, this is not a high priority item. I mean, I'm not asking that staff put this to the top of the to-do list, but it is an issue that is coming up more frequently. And maybe Jeannie could put something together for a study session at some time in the future.
Would you like our views at the current moment?
Yeah, well, just a minute, let me put the timer on there for a minute. Now, some people say, well, I should time the supervisors, but that's a prerogative of the supervisor to take whatever time he or she wants. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, I've tried to think of this in several different ways. One is that it's very important that boards hear from the public as full-throated in as full-throated measure as possible. We also need to conduct business in an orderly fashion. So we've had people sit here for as much as 2 or 3 hours sometimes and heard sort of repeat comments that really, while it creates volume, does not lend breadth to or depth to the issue at hand. I actually had an opportunity, we had a community meeting in McCollum Hill a while ago with a lot of people in attendance, and I put it to them, some of them had been attending from time to time on various issues, most of them having been agendized, and felt when we did a survey, almost the entire group felt that we weren't handling that portion of our agenda very well in relation to the people who were scheduled after. Some of them had missed 3 or 4 hours of work on a lot line adjustment, or maybe an issue that deals with a road that they live on, and they'd all come down and wait for a long, long time, often in relation to our public comment period. So on the one hand, we want to honor the people and their schedules who are on the agenda, and at the same time, we don't want to have a chilling effect on public comment. So I like the idea of having a public comment period that has a specific time limit. The question would be at the beginning of a meeting, because people know that that they can come at a certain time and do public comment. The question is whether there should be any limit on that time so that you can then do regularly scheduled meetings. Sometimes public comment lasts 10 minutes, and if we schedule, say, at 10 o'clock as our first agendized item, we'd be waiting for as much as 45 to 50 minutes. Sometimes public comment lasts 2 hours, and we would, if we limited it to the 45 minutes that Marita suggests, there would be a number of people who had things to say that would have to wait maybe many hours until their time came at the end. Finding the balance is the issue at hand. My view is what's happening right now is not very polite for a whole lot of people, and the straw poll at this meeting was something like 95% of the people said that they'd like some kind of limit, a reasonable limit at the outset of a meeting, and then unlimited at the end of the meeting so that all voices could be heard, but that the people on the agenda would still have that there would be some consideration of their schedule. So I don't know whether it would be to 9:45 or to 10 or whatever, but I favor the notion.
Any other supervisor want to make a comment now or ask?
Well, I give my 2 cents worth, and I'm for moving it to the end of the regular agenda for all the reasons Steve gave. And I think it's very awkward to say, oh, we're just going to do it for a half hour at the beginning, because then who gets to decide who gets to speak and who doesn't, and it gets to be very arbitrary. And I think it's just much simpler to just move it to the end of the regular agenda. And so we can take, for this reason Steve stated, so those people that have been given a time to have some reasonable expectation within that framework that their issue is going to be heard. And we have no ability to control public comment, so you put it at the beginning and it just can go on forever like it did this morning. So I think it belongs at the end of the regular agenda.
Again, I'm asking, I mean, I just brought it up, and I think there's other counties do it differently. I sort of disagree with Tom on putting the whole thing at the end of the agenda, because sometimes people have come in, as we all know, who are very upset about an issue, and they really need to talk about it. And if they had to wait 4 hours, 5 hours till 4, whatever in the afternoon, they even get more agitated. So, I mean, I'd like to find out what, maybe in a more formal manner than I have, what other counties do, and possibly have just a study session on it. Maybe even the public, not maybe, the public can weigh in on it, understanding that it is the decision of the Board of Supervisors how they want to manage the public comment period. So,
Madam Chair, perhaps I could look into what other counties do and then provide you with a written report, and then we could come back for board direction. I'm not sure it really requires a study session.
I mean, it is up to how we want to
Yes,
manage it. And
that's
it's
correct.
like today, I
So you can have
gave
food for
somebody
thought.
another minute. And, okay, I mean, that's fine. That's okay, too. Gary?
Well, you know, it doesn't really matter where you put it. We're going to have situations like what happened today. It's not the first time that happened, that we've had a stoked house and people coming in here on a specific item that is not on our agenda, that they speak about it during the public comment period. It doesn't happen all that often. It's probably going to happen more coming into the general plan update when certain items come. But there's emotional items that come, and it doesn't matter to me whether it's at the beginning or at the end. I can understand both sides of it, that we did have a lot of things on the agenda that people were coming from out of county to present today. That happens sometimes also. It just happened today that it was all came together at one time. But, you know, I would like to have some ideas on how other counties handle it. I know there are some that have it at the very end. I'm not sure if any of them have them on Wednesdays. But
we can do that.
I'm open to whatever the rest of the board would like to see. I don't think putting it at the end, though, is totally, or even what Marita suggested, 45 minutes or half an hour, and then pick it up again at the end. I'm not sure people are going to be sitting around waiting for their turn to talk on a specific item if it's another 4 or 5 hours down the line. If we have study sessions or if we have long agendas and they're drawn out on certain items, that they're going to be hanging around that long, and then they won't have they get a feeling that they didn't have a chance to speak their piece. So I think if you do it, I think you need to either do it at the beginning like we do now, or at the end and do it all at once, not split it into separate sessions. So.
Yeah, even if you do it at the end, Gary, you can have an approximate time, so they know they're not going to come at 9 if you're scheduling it for 11:45. You do schedule.
I don't disagree with that, Tom. Like I said, I'm open to either way. I don't think it's going to change anything like the today we had or we've had in the past. I mean, that's not the first time that particular type of thing happened here, so.
Okay, Ginny, why don't we take your advice? Russ, did you have something?
What am I, chopped liver?
Well, I didn't hear you speak up.
I was the first one to raise my hand, but I...
Oh, I didn't see it. I apologize.
It was a short hand. It was a short hand. I really don't see, aside from the fact that we occasionally get out of here later than we should, that the way we handle it now is particularly flawed, or if it isn't broken, don't fix it. I think that the chairman should be given maybe more support in the direction of just saying at the onset, like I used to do, is how many people here are going to talk about this one particular subject. If you knew at the onset that they had a room full of people talking about the plan, then I often said when I was chair that we're going to limit the discussion to 3 minutes this morning because it's going to take too long. So, and it's just you got the gavel in your hand, of course. Well, anyway, I had the gavel in my hand, and I didn't think that I alienated anybody by saying, in the interest of the discussions here today, we cannot let this go for 3 hours, so we're going to limit it to 3 minutes. So I would encourage you, let's continue. My recommendation would be to keep on doing it the way we've been doing it, but just let's all support the chairperson when she says we're going to have to expedite the discussion today because of the length of time that it appears like it may take. I'd back you up on that.
Okay, so I want to take the advice of the CAO and let her office do an analysis. And again, Jeannie, it's not high priority, but, by next board meeting would be fine. Thank you.
We'll find something out. Put it in writing, Jeannie.
Thank you.
Love those one-week turnarounds.
Speaking of public comments, does anybody have any thoughts on this out here?
No? It's board time. Sorry.
Okay.
You can come back next Tuesday at 9:10. I'm trying not to get the board to respond to the public. 9:10, thanks, but I'm going to...
We'll respond to you.
Next Tuesday at 9:10, please.
Your
Thank
smile
you.
is enough, Mike. Your smile.
Ms. Boyce, do you have any comments for the board?
I'll just provide a few comments on the state budget. The state controller's September cash report says it's a bit of silver lining, and I think Larry Busby was somewhat referring to that. Essentially, the September cash came in a little bit higher than they had anticipated, but it was primarily due to corporate taxes and personal income tax revenues that came in above estimates, a little bit of growth in sales tax. But they really are, the state controller is saying that he really thinks it's due to timeline changings and not really the economy, so we should watch that. The state will be issuing some revenue anticipation notes soon. They haven't determined their timeline yet. A couple of issues that we've looked at that have future impacts upon Calaveras County in the public safety arena that were part of the budget trailer language for the state budget have to do with the shift of responsibility for juvenile parole once juveniles are released from state facilities. They used to be, or currently are, the responsibility of state parole. They will become the responsibility of county probation as of January 2014. So that does not have an immediate impact upon the county budget in the current year. Along with that responsibility will come some additional state funding, and that is that the county probation departments will receive $15,000 per year in funding to support the supervision and monitoring for these juvenile parolees. That's something that we hadn't talked about before.
For how long?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Again, there's 25 budget trailer bills implementing the budget document itself. So we have, it's that detail that we have to really pay attention to.
Do we know how many parolees are involved at that level?
we've had like 3 and 4, but I don't know currently. I need
So it's
to
not
talk
a
to
huge-
Carrie.
it's
It's
not
not
a
a
big
huge amount for
number. That's
us.
what I
No,
thought,
our probation department has really kept people out of the state facilities as best we can. It's very expensive to have folks in the facilities. On the vehicle license fees for public safety, I just want to make a clarification to make sure the press understood my comments from last week. There is no change in the VLF funding formula for local public safety in the current year. And in our current budget, we have funds that are for the Citizens Option for Public Safety, which is the COPS money, the Juvenile Justice Crime Prevention money, the Rural Sheriff's Local Assistance, and the booking fee replacement revenues. The issue is that the VLF extension will expire June 30th of 2011. So it's a high priority at the state level among the leadership and public safety to ensure that early on in the budget discussions next winter, that extension be extended beyond June 30, 2011. On the Williamson Act revenue subvention, that has taken an interesting twist. Now, we owe the state money because they over-remitted to us in Williamson Act funding years ago. But because of the language in the budget trailer bill that's tied to some specific language having to do with San Diego County and redevelopment of downtown, that the whole Williamson Act negotiations with the specific bill may go belly up because there's some poison pill language. So I was just speaking to Karen Keene this morning. We'll keep our eye on that and see whether, I don't think that's going to impact us this year because of what we owe the state, but we'll keep watching that and monitoring that for you.
Jeannie, on that one, since they owe us and we owe them.
Right.
Well, if they don't fund it, they don't owe us anything.
Right.
So, but in good faith, I mean, I'm just saying, I don't know that we should roll over on paying it back.
No, I don't think we have a choice. They're not keeping it. I mean, if in fact they fund it, we may get some money depending on the level of what we owe them versus how much.
Out of $10 million?
I'm not counting on it.
$7.
I'm not counting on it. So but we'll see. I mean, I think for folks that have worked on that language all year long, the poison pill that had to do with San Diego County and that last-minute budget negotiations in the last night of session, has kind of spoiled some of the work that was done earlier in the year. So there's some concerns about the San Diego language.
So the state is not requesting a repayment this year?
Correct.
Okay. Of the monies that they say we owe.
Right. If there's money, they're going to take it. If they're going to allocate the $10 million, if that in fact folds, we may get some money. If we don't, depending on what we owe them, depending on what the total allocation is, we still owe the state.
Right.
So
I understand. I mean, if they're not asking, we're not giving.
Right.
And if they give, then it's really just saying we will return to you what you give to us. Could we do that?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
We've talked to you about the securitization. Some of the hidden impacts have to do with CalWorks and the child care funds. We're still trying to sort this out because part of this money impacts CalWorks and their administrative allocation, which they don't have yet. So they aren't able to actually analyze the impact, but it has to do with our Stage 1 and 2 child care program, which helps folks who go back to work and need assistance with their child care payments for their providers. The Stage 3 child care program is currently funded through our Calaveras County Office of Education. It doesn't impact our CalWorks and Human Services budget, but it could impact our families in the county. So although there may not be a direct general fund impact on some of the state budget cuts, there are often impacts to families and residents who live in the county because of the change in how that funding rolls down to local jurisdictions. So we'll keep watching that because we're still trying to tease out some of the details on that. On the same side, it's our AB 3632 funds, and this is the funding for our seriously emotionally disturbed pupils. This is the mandates. It's a federal mandate that schools provide some mental health services 2 seriously emotionally disturbed kids. Counties usually provide that service on behalf of the school districts. We do that. We have an agreement, a yearly agreement with the CCOE, with our Behavioral Health Services Mental Health Program, to the tune of about $41,000. That money has evaporated. They're in discussions currently with our CCOE and our behavioral health to see how we can continue to provide some services for kids. Most of those children are eligible for Medi-Cal and will be on that outpatient service basis. So, again, something to watch. Some of the impacts on public health that I mentioned earlier had to do with the potential hit to immunization services, but the state funding for us has not been reduced. We do receive federal funding that hasn't been touched, so we're good there. On the offender treatment program that I talked about last week for substance abuse did not think they would get any money, so they didn't budget it, so that loss is not an impact to us. They are using federal ARA monies and some are being allowed to roll over some federal funds to continue to provide some assistance for our treatment services. So we dodged a bullet on that. And then on the transportation, and probably Tom can talk to you at length about this, the legislature failed to pass the budget transportation trailer bill that's tied to the state budget. It essentially freezes the transportation funding until this bill is passed, and it issues the Proposition 1B Local Streets and Roads funds, which delays payment. Essentially, it's frozen as we understand it at this point. But Tom might be able to give you a snapshot on that.
They did freeze that funding. The other big impact of not passing the trailer bill was that the HUDA funds are not clear as to what we can use them for. The way they tied it to Prop 1B, there is some discussion at the State Controller's Office that those cannot be used for maintenance activities like snow plowing. So
that's a safety issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
that's not maintenance.
They were going to freeze these only until after the first of the year, till January, is that correct?
But the trailer bill needed to be passed in order for us to use them over the season. They haven't passed that trailer bill yet. We're hoping that they do before the snow comes.
Right.
If not, then we will find another way of doing it and then hopefully get reimbursed.
It's a high priority among CSAC and other counties to get that legislation passed, so we'll keep our eyes on that one.
Thank you.
The other thing I wanted to just let you know that I did meet with the UC Cooperative Extension folks as well as Amador, Tuolumne, and El Dorado counties about, again, continuing to explore a Joint Powers Authority. And we have agreed that the main issues that we're looking at is the net county cost, impact to staff, the program impacts, the presence in the counties, and facility impacts. We will probably have a draft JPA to look at in a couple of weeks. I'll come back to you. We are really looking at ways that we can reduce the administrative costs and really provide more program and professional assistance to all the counties. Looking at the recent JPA that was done with the Central Sierra Child Support Agency and using that as a template. So, and lastly, I will be at the California Association of County Administrators annual meeting Wednesday to Friday. So, that's it.
Okay. Mr. Jones?
I'd like to volunteer to work with the CIO on a written summary, a report to the board on this issue of public comment. I get a fair amount of questions about that, and it would be helpful. I think the requirement of the Brown Act is that the agenda provide an opportunity for the public to address the board on matters under the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Beyond that, the board has great discretion in imposing time limits, so it would be helpful to get some consensus by the board as to what you want, and so that we have that guidance. It was mentioned that there's a 15-minute limit on subject matter limit, but that's not mentioned in our agenda. It may have been at one time, but there's no 15-minute limit in the agenda. It could be if that's what the board wants. The agenda does say that the time limit shall be at the discretion of the board, and so I think in general it would be, I would welcome a discussion and some guidance from the board as to what you want. So So I'd be happy to work with Jeannie on that.
Thank you. There's nothing else from the board. This meeting is adjourned, and we will reconvene in a study session in 5 minutes. Mr. Jones, on the closed session, Supervisor Tryon has to leave by 12:30.
I'd like to ask you to cancel the closed session.
Cancel the closed session. Okay, thank you. Done.
They're going to be seating our districts here.
Oh, yeah.
Cloud seating.
Yeah, they've
Don't have an accident.
They've been doing that for years.
One of those things with what's in the air on District 2 and 3.
That's right. We may be creating precipitation on our own, depending on who rise.
Prop 19.
No, you watch.
I know.
You guys think you got economic plans. Wait till you see. We become the most prosperous district in Calaveras.
Myers is already at my ear.
Oh, I know. Yeah, right.
District 2 is the capital of Calaveras County. Marijuana.
Is that what he says? I do understand that there's Mexican cartel activity in parts of it. That you were in control of. Well, yeah, that's the rumor. Unfortunately, I have absolutely no stake. Oh, yeah. Of course. Yeah, there's a partnership for now.
You guys are Is anybody awake? Okay. Mr. Caldwell, Mr. Garcia, are you two ready?
Yes, ma'am. They're actually talking and they're not yelling at each other.
Yeah, let it go.
Let them go.
Oh, okay. I'd like to convene the study session. This is to provide direction regarding alternative State Route 1226, etc. I do want to preface this. I just got back from the East Coast, and I went on several roundabouts in areas much larger than Calaveras County. And there was, in one of the roundabouts, they had stoplights. I don't think I'd ever been. I think that was in Schenectady. Or Albany, I can't remember which city.
I can't imagine.
It was, but there were huge trucks and cars and traffic, but I had never been on a roundabout that had, I think it was as you come in and before you entered into the, I don't know. I mean, I was just sort of surprised it was red and I stopped. I should have taken a picture, but it's just sort of what you're used to, and they're used to him on the East Coast. That being said, Mr. Garcia, would you like to proceed, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tom Garcia, Public Works. Jonathan Mitchell and Brian Stevenson with Document Engineering are going to be presenting the results of the last public meeting on the alternatives that we discussed with the public once the board gave us a new alternative to go out to the public and vet. We received very positive feedback at the public meeting. It was very well attended, about 3 or 4 dozen people. Good comments, good public interaction, and the plan that you see before you is a more engineered version of the schematic that we had presented to the board earlier and to the public at the public meeting. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jonathan and Brian.
Brian's going to go ahead and form the presentation.
Good morning. As Tom mentioned in the interview, this is the result of the August 4th meeting. We went, presented, and then we went out and had a fourth public meeting to display the minimal intersection improvement concept, or as it's also labeled, alternative 4. Today I'm going to cover 4 quick bullets here, sort of recover what we've studied to date, an overview of the neighborhood, stakeholder, public coordination that's been done to date, a budget for each alternative, the traffic signal, the roundabout, and the minimal, and then steps going forward from today. The concepts that we've studied, the signal, the roundabout, and the minimized intersection, have had traffic studies ran on this. We know what their impacts are. We know what their level of service are today, a few years in the future, 10 years in the future, so they can be looked at equally and determine benefit from each one. And we also looked at some of the bypass local road connectors in a very overview level. We didn't do any analysis. We just sort of looked at where they might connect and some quick how they would work. And of course, when you're talking about capital projects, as mentioned before, there's always the no project alternative that's on the table. Recap quickly, this is the size and footprint of the signalized improvement at the intersection, labeling out the impacts to the local frontages, driveway impacts. You've seen this before. This has been at the previous 2 public meetings for the public to look at. The next alternative, the roundabout, there again the footprint is shown, the lane configuration, and the impacts to the fronting parcels within that footprint. The 4th public meeting is where this was presented to the public to get their input and their likes and dislikes on it. As you can see, definitely a smaller footprint, fewer impacts to frontage to the state highway. The 4 public meetings we had with the 2 early ones, sort of north and south of Valley Springs to capture the geographical area. We had a follow-up one in August, and then we came to the board. After that meeting, we held the September 23rd one in Valley Springs. And at all of these meetings, notice the paper, the website, the roadside banners, we had really good turnout at all of those meetings. Specifically on the 23rd, we had about 4 dozen people at the meeting. We also received verbal comments at those public meetings that we have a record of here, about 40, 50 verbal comments from the public during the evening. And also we received 15 comment cards. We always hand comment cards out to people, so if they don't want to speak, they can write it down. And what was very telling, all of the written responses, every single one of them came back, they liked alternative for the minimal project. And it was sort of overwhelming. Previous meetings, we got the I like traffic signal, I like roundabout. This is that 4th meeting. It's the first time I saw every comment card back was I like alternative for, I like the minimal project. To that end, to recap some of the project costs, we'll start with the signal again. Capital construction costs about $3.3 million. $4.1 million total project cost. That's assuming the engineering, right-of-way utilities, and construction management. The roundabout, $2.5 million total. There again, engineering, right-of-way, and the construction cost of $1.6 million, about half. And that's due to the footprint being a little smaller, less asphalt. And then the new number, due to that alternative for minimized project, is the cost of $1.2 million total project and $500,000 construction capital. That $500,000 is very important because it puts us down into the Caltrain's encouragement permit process. The other 2 alternatives being over $1 million of construction costs in the right-of-way bumps us into the PEER, the Permit Engineering Evaluation Report process. A few more hoops to jump through to summarize. By going back under $1 million with construction in the state right-of-way, we can go into sort of the tried and true encroachment permit process. So what the next steps are? Next steps are board direction to staff. From that, a meeting with Caltrans to introduce them to the minimal project, to get their buy-in, laying out the encroachment permit process, how we go through that. And then the full-on start of design and design to support the environmental approvals for the environmental document. And we have a preliminary schedule up there showing how that will work out. This is sort of hinging on the environmental documents, technical studies and documents being approved around April 2011, final design following that, and then right-of-way acquisition, I have labeled in there 5 months following the approvals of the environmental document. can't start the official acquisition process until you have the approved environmental. Except right now it's just earmarked at 5 months. That can grow if roadblocks or obstructions are hit during the right-of-way process, condemnation or unfavorable property owners. If everything goes as planned, advertise the project in the fall, award in the winter, and begin construction in the spring of 2012 with a short 3-month project, with a minimal project. It'll be done midsummer. And with that, turn to the board for any questions or corrections to that.
Supervisor Tuffanelli, did you want to start out with any questions or comments?
I don't have any questions or comments right now. I think we need to go around and give it to the audience first.
Does any of the board members have any questions or comments at this point? Are there any public comments or questions at this point?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Gary Caldwell, Valley Springs. I'm sorry I was not able to make the September 23rd meeting. I was out of town and did not make that meeting, but I do want to commend the department, Public Works Department, for the noticing and the outreach on this, holding these meetings and putting more than adequate notice in the newspapers and the flyers and the various local media periodicals. I'm really unfamiliar with this alternate. It says down on the lower left, it says level service E in 2024 without local bypass as 4-way stop. Does that mean that this alternate 4 is going to be a 4-way stop with a free right? Is that what that is? 4-way stop with a free right?
Correct. As it is laid out and shown down, the 4-way stop would remain with the additional dedicated left turn pocket for the 1226 onto State Route 26 movement, free right for the 12 approach onto 26, and then a free right from the 26 onto 1226 for the San Andreas.
Okay. And I don't know if the board is aware, level service E, I don't know if the board understands level services, you know.
We do.
Okay. Because I'm looking at when it says without local bypass, in 2003, Caltrans put together a PSR project study report. At that time, the cost of the bypass, according to their numbers, was $60 million. And with the county going ahead with the Wagon Trail project at about $70 million, if you do go ahead with that project, you're not going to see $60 million additional for years and years, maybe decades. So the presumption will have to be, I would think, the logical presumption then is that you're not going to have a local bypass, so it will be level service E as a 4-way stop. That's my guess, unless there's, you know, somebody wins the lottery or something, gives it to the county or the state of California to do that project. But if that's satisfactory to the board and the constituency, then it looks like certainly the most reasonably priced one. There's no question about that. The cost of it. Of course, my main interest is efficient movement of the traffic and also safety. And as was indicated by the chair, that there are a number of roundabouts back east and in Europe. Roundabouts are very effective, or can be very effective. And that would be my preference if I had my choice. And I see it's just about double in cost. It's 1.2 versus 2.5 apparently. And that would be my choice if I had my druthers. I don't have a spreadsheet to compare the various impacts here together with the various alternatives. And I would suggest you might want to do that. Ask the consultant to provide you a tabular setting of what he's done up here with like right-of-way impacts and the comments on the lower left and the cost and timing. And I like the timing of the advertising in October of next year if that happens, is you want to advertise in the wintertime or late fall, because hopefully construction companies are hungry and they're laying out their schedule for the next year, the next construction season. And so if you get your advertising out early enough, hopefully you'll get a decent price. and then you just defer the start date until, as was shown up here, until April, until it's dry, and hopefully the rains have stopped and make it possible to go ahead with the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Caldwell.
Colleen Platt, myvalleysprings.com. Wanted to thank Dock and Engineering and Public Works again for doing a great job. We've attended all of the meetings, all the public meetings they've put on. Their materials, their handouts, their maps have been excellent. The information that Gary was requesting, I believe, was at one of those meetings where there was tables comparing all the alternatives and the costs and the right-of-way, necessary, and the time and everything. And it was pretty obvious at all the meetings that people were very interested in our community. There was high attendance at the meetings, a lot of discussion on the impacts of the community, how it would impact the businesses, and that seemed to be one of the biggest concerns of people, how the businesses would be impacted, but also the concern about how some of the larger alternatives could affect the community character of the town. And there was great concern that it could feel like it was splitting the town in half because of some of the larger alternatives, plus that the impact on the businesses and the parking was pretty dramatic. So the alternative 4, I think, was a great compromise from a lot of different perspectives. We do feel that it will increase the traffic flow to a very satisfactory degree for a number of years. That will last us a very long time. And in the meantime, the community will be going through, general plan and community plan updates. There have been alternate connectors proposed. There's been new alternate roads proposed in various developments and in various community plans presented. There's been alternate roads, so hopefully down the road 10 or 15 years, those will have been studied and those will be feasible. In the meantime, I think this is a really good solution that should get us through quite a number of years. We especially like the enhanced crosswalks that are being suggested for pedestrian safety, some of the possible pavement texturing that can be done to make this aesthetically an attractive feature of our downtown. We hope that the sidewalks, some of them have been proposed to connect to existing sidewalks and businesses to the intersection, and that would be great to pursue that, and I'm hoping that it will also be on the other side of the road where Marval is, so that we can also connect to there. I'm just pretty pleased with this, and I think the community was pretty happy with it, as the engineers have reported. And I understand that there is already some funding set aside for this through COG. That's my understanding on that, so hopefully that won't be a great impediment to moving forward on this. So I just encourage the board to select this direction. Thank you.
Any other public comments on this or questions?
Madam Chair, I have enough once, but I don't understand what the reciprocal access is. Can that be explained?
Thank you. Could you please do that, please?
As presented at the public meeting, there was some opportunity due to the Trident Realty corner being within the functional area of the intersection. Here in this quadrant, driveways in and out of that onto the state will be limited there into the functional area. The grades back here from Marval, the 76 station, and the Tridam parcel, the grades are such that if there was a desire between the property owners to connect through the Marval or connect into the 76 station to make this more of a uniform commercial corner, the grades do work, and we just wanted to sort of address that with this graphic here, just to sort of say we looked at it, shot some grades and elevations of the existing dirt, because some people had concerns with the old rail bed here, and the 76 station is higher than the Marval parking lot. How would that work? And it can work, not necessarily part of this project, but it is a possibility to clean that up there if the people involved wanted to go in that direction.
It has to do, Gary, at one time, we were talking, and I was discussing the fact that we could take down the wall that's there in the gas station and make that graded out and make that whole thing there a plaza, and then you would have access to the Tridam lot from there. You'd have access to the gas station from that whole area there versus now going out on the highway and going into the gas station or going out and pulling into the parking lot at Tridam. Just make it all accessible from the back parking lot back there by removing the wall and grading that out.
So this is intended to be access to Tridam Road?
It could be an access to Tridam.
Well, they have no other access there. They will have no other access.
They would have potentially limited access right out here at the existing gravel dirt lot into the, I'm calling the south side of the building.
Where they currently work. It says that the faucet access is state highway.
And that,
I assume the access will be purchased to Tridam Road.
It's proposed.
as we move through design and coordination with Caltrans, we would determine how much of that functional area they would want to protect with access control. If they have that now.
Are there other questions or comments from the public? I'm going to bring it back to the board.
If I could just make one comment. The improvements that are being proposed here would not preclude any future improvements, either through roundabout or signalization. So this could be an interim step to a larger improvement prior to a bypass being put in. Just wanted to make sure that the board knew that putting this in did not close the door on any future improvement to the intersection.
I should hope not, because level of service E in 14 years is not that far away. And I think that sort of gets to what my biggest concern is that I looked at this as a short-term measure for a long... This is a major area for traffic coming in and out of Calaveras County. And, I mean, I used it, yes, I use it a lot, because that's how I get down to, when I go to Sacramento. I come through here, and I go other places, I go through here. And I've also skirted around up Chestnut Street and Daphne, over to Cedar and down to 12. I mean, I go around because there's too much traffic.
On the surface street?
On the surface streets. So, you know, I think that's my big concern, is unless we have really definitive plans, like going back where we did 20 years ago and discussing the alternate route through, I want to say Lime Creek, because that's kind of what I remember. The other question I have is, have the adjacent businesses that we're going to do acquisition, have they been talked to? Because 5 months isn't a long time to get right-of-way. Have you spoken to them? Do they have some concerns? Do you see some problems where we'd have to do eminent domain?
At this stage in the process, what we want to do is share with any project stakeholders as much information about the conceptual design that we have before us as we can. However, until the environmental document is complete, it isn't the appropriate time to enter into discussions with property landowners, especially to the point that we discuss dollar amounts. So we encourage them to understand as much about the project and some of the potential ramifications of the project at this stage. But until we have direction from the board to move forward, even with one alternative, we can begin to enter into more detailed discussion.
That I understand. I understand all that, and I understand there's no money discussion, but the schedule said 5 months. And if you've talked to them and there's some possible red flags or concerns from this area, then should not the schedule of the 5 months be extended to 10 months or a year, which then puts your construction schedule, changes that?
Correct. Let me go back to that slide. If in that process of talking to the landowner, property owners, and it becomes apparent that not a willing seller or it will have to go to full condemnation, best case that stretches and doubles to 10 months. The good news is we have between December and May, which is 5 months of float in the schedule to still be able to build in 2012. So if we bid in the winter of 2011, we have until late spring until we need to hit the ground and build. And with the minimal project, it's just a one-season construction window, fairly quick, given 3 months of good summer weather, and they can have it built. So you're talking typical year you can build and pave up through September without weather. So as long as we are able to get right away by spring of 2012, we can still bid and construct. So that buys us another 5 to 6 months, so almost a full year for right-of-way process.
It always seems to be longer than what the schedule says, so let's...
Correct. There is some wiggle room in the schedule to accommodate hopefully that worst-case scenario condemnation.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Tuffanelli, did you want to...
Well, yeah, I want to make a couple comments here. This is Valley Springs in the area that we're looking at right now and we're talking and discussing about. It happens to be very unique in itself in the fact that what you're looking at is basically Valley Springs downtown. That's it. There's no other intersections that has to do with the historical part of Valley Springs downtown. If in my opinion, you put a roundabout in there, or you put this big, huge freeway-looking thing with the four-way stoplight situation that was put in, you're completely altering the whole historic downtown. We just had the train station or the train depot designated as a historical landmark building. In the other alternatives, that is completely engulfing that building to the point where it's right up on its doorstep. So there would be some problems with that, and I can't see with what's being on the table, and it was discussed earlier, even at the meetings that we talked about with the community plan that was presented to us, some alternates that are on these plans that aren't actually a Caltrans bypass of this intersection. They are alternate routes that landowners have. Jeff Davison, for one, has one in a project in planning right now that has an alternate route from 12 to 26, and there's some future projects that could address the other side of the highway. So in 14 years, as it was brought up earlier, we could have alternate routes in place that relieve some of the traffic at this intersection. I can't see in living here for the last 20 years in the Valley Springs area completely destroying that whole downtown in order to accommodate something that may not be used extensively to the way that it is even now in the next 10 years. I think this is an adequate start and an adequate design to relieve what's happening there right now and in the future, even for the next 14 years. I'm in favor of this alternate. I think it keeps the historic downtown of Valley Springs. It's not completely redesigning it. This is, for all intent and purposes, like I said, This is historical downtown Valley Springs. It's not like it has multiple intersections that have developed over the years. It was brought up earlier, again, with the Valley Springs plan, community plan, the development has been allowed to grow in other areas outside of here. So that's how this is all developed into what it is. I just can't see alternate at this point. I think the future will have some alternate routes to alleviate the traffic that preclude any Caltrans highway bypass. So I'm in favor of this. Those are my comments.
Any other? Mr. Thomas, did you have anything you wanted to address?
Only that I like this a lot. I never wanted to spend a couple of $1 million on this intersection. I never felt like it was warranted, and this is very much in keeping with the solution that I have been advocating for a couple of years. So, good job.
Okay, Jonathan, is there any direction that you were looking for from the board?
What we'd like is if the board could provide direction regarding one of the alternatives presented so that we could proceed by presenting that to Caltrans as the preferred alternative by the Board of Supervisors.
Okay, and the one you showed us is alternative 4?
That's correct.
Okay, so I understand from at least 2 of the supervisors, I'm a third, reluctantly. Because knowing how long-term we need to look, but hey, end the conversation. Mr. Walensky?
I'm fine. I appreciate the comments. It's nice to see a plan come in this area without a great deal of ruckus, and I'm not going to get in the way of that.
Okay, you have 4 positives and 1 had to leave, and I think Supervisor Tryon voiced support for this when we discussed it last time. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The board will reconvene at 1:30 for a study session, and we are going to lunch at, please name a place.
The hot dog place, or are you going to go all the way down to the Thai place and
We have time.
How about the all-you-can-eat smorgasbord? Let's hit it and run.
What's that?
It's Chinese.
Is there an hour?
Good friends.